trick. The trick is to understand how long each thing takes. So, of course, the tip was save at least 20 minutes for your essay. That's definitely that. And how can you save 20 minutes for your essay? You have to leave 2 minutes for each 2 mark question, or maybe like a minute per mark. And to do so, you have to really make the most out of your 5 minute reading time that you will receive in the beginning of the exam. And so when you do so, when you get that 5 minute reading time, try and come up with answers for those short mark questions so that you know what you want to say as soon as as soon as you're allowed to pick up a pen. Okay? So that's the real trick behind this is to don't don't take don't take the reading period for granted because it's really helpful and it'll allow you to really understand the questions and know what you're going to answer so that once the reading period is done, you get to start immediately. All right? And it's okay if you get questions you don't know. Start with the ones you know so that you can save time to really crack down the ones you don't know. All right? So, let's move to section A. All right? So the way section A works is you only have one page per unit. Like each page is for each unit. You'll have 3 pages for section A, one about changing populations, one about global climate change, and one about global resource consumption. And so the way the questions are split, though, you'll get split into stimulus response and then knowledge-based questions. So stimulus response is more like responding to a graph, a map, something, a visual information and answering questions based off of it. And then knowledge-based questions is answering questions about the syllabus that you have in your head, okay? So, we can begin with, answering some sample questions that I have prepared for you guys. So, what you're going to do is I'm going to give you guys I'll give you more time. I'll give you guys 2 minutes. No, I'll give you 3 minutes per question, and then we'll go over the mark scheme. Okay. So in the exam, it's not supposed to take you so long, but then we just wanted you to get into the into the habit of reading a stimulus and knowing what to say and how to respond, because the questions are very brief and they don't require you to give so much detail. All right. So before I begin, does anyone have any questions? Good. Does anyone have any questions before I begin? If not, let me know in the chat. You please, you guys don't be afraid to use the chat to talk to me. Like, please ask me questions. Let me know. Good to let me know what you're thinking. Okay, awesome. If no questions, let's begin with section A. First one is about changing populations. As you can see here, it's a graph that shows the trends in sex and age profiles in Central and Southeastern Europe between 2009 and 2014. So you have 2 questions. So the first one is state which year had the highest percentage of children trafficked. And then number 2 is determine the range and percentage of women trafficked. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to answer this. All right, if you want, write in the chat when you're done so I can know when to move on. So, but you're supposed to be done within like a minute or two, but just let me know in the chat so I don't go too slow or if I don't go too fast. Okay, if most of you are done, we can move on, but I'll still for 1 more minute. I'll wait until 13. All right, since it's 13, we can move on. Okay, so let's check out the mark scheme then. So the mark scheme for this is, of course, which year had the highest percentage of children trafficked? That was 2012. As you can see here, it was if you add up, for example, if you add up the boys plus girls, it was the highest number out of them all. And then determine the range and percentage of women trafficked. It's 7% or 6 minus 53%. So check if you got that one correct. If you did, give yourself a pat on the back. If not, it's okay. We'll do another one as well right now. So this next one is for global climate change. It's a map, as you can see. And so the question is, describe the distribution of the selected heat wave events shown on the map. So remember, this is a 2-mark question. That means you have to give 2 points, or like 2 observations. Okay, so think of this way: like 1 mark is 1 form of explanation. So while you're writing down, try and see if you can give 2 observations instead of just 1, like 2 ways of describing what's going on in the map. Okay, so I'll give you guys 2 minutes, but if you finish early, let me know in the chat. I'll give you guys until 16. Yes. By the way, guys, if you don't know, this is Europe. In case you don't know, this is Europe. So, but I would be very concerned if you don't know if you didn't know this was Europe. All right, I'll give you guys 1 more minute, but you can. Uh, I can't because if I put it in wait, actually, let me try. Guys, I'm still I'm not the best with technology. How do I? Never mind. Never mind. Is this better? I hope it's better. There we go. Okay. I'm okay, guys. Bear with me with technology. Okay, I feel like a grandma. That's the wrong question. Us. Guys, wait. Okay. Oops. That was bad. That was bad. Guys, we don't talk about it. Okay, so since you guys are done, or is everyone done? Let me know in the chat if you're done. Because I only see 2 people, 2, 3 people talking this question. So let me know if you're done. Okay, wait. So for this question, you could have said many things, right? There's a lot of possibilities, so I can show you what they are just in a second. Just, it's okay. Okay. You could have said something such as the distribution is uneven, there's more heat wave events in Southern Europe, there's clusters in Southwestern Europe, clusters in Southeastern, Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, if you know the specific countries. But you can say, like, for example, you can also say there are fewer in Northern Europe, there are fewer in Central Europe, more in Southern Europe. So those are the kinds of descriptions that you can make. As long as you mention 2, that is, that's where your marks come from. If you mention two describing points instead of 1, if that makes sense. But there aren't that many in coastlines though. If you can see, like, some of them are really, like, they're more cluttered in the south. Like, you can mostly say that they're cluttered in the southeast and southwest. That's more of an obvious description, which is good. So I think that's where it is. But I don't think the coastline thing would work because there are a lot that aren't in the coastline. Yeah, that works. That works. So just make sure that you keep it very brief. So how do you prevent being too descriptive? Like the mark scheme said, it's just a few words that give enough description for, or like that give 2 points of description. So you can just say, oh, more distribution in Southern Europe, less distribution in Northern Europe, or you can say very clustered in Southeastern Europe compared to and Southwestern Europe. So you could just describe it like that, very brief. Okay? You I'll give you one more chance to practice something like this. So here is for global resource consumption. So describe the trend shown in the slum population of Lesotho between 2005 and 2014. So as you can see, it's also a descriptive 2 points, so this can help you, again, prepare for this kinds of questions. Okay. Let me know when you're done. All right. If you're done, awesome. Okay, most of you are done. That's good. That's You could say two things. One, that there's an overall increase between 2005 and 2009, and you can also say that there's a decrease between 2000 and 2014. So it's just describing the trend and the pattern of what's going on. Does this one make sense to you guys? But then again, I think I assume doing one of them is okay. I don't know if both is in this case. I think just showing like the dates. Well, you could. I think you could. Because when I checked the mark scheme for this one, it was very brief in terms of what you could mention, but I don't see why that wouldn't be correct, if that makes sense. Yes, you can. Like I feel like any yes, if you said peak in 2009 then went down, like it said in the mark scheme, it says 2009 to 2014 decrease. So as long as you describe a trend, I'm sure it'll be correct. Because I don't think, because the issue was with this mark scheme was it wasn't too descriptive, but it did, you know, it did give you some leeway. All right. So, do you guys want to do more of stimulus response, or can we move on to 2+2 questions, which are the best ones, in my opinion? Yes, let's move on. Yes, okay. Okay, guys. You guys are very excited for 2+2 questions. I know you guys love them that much. But okay. For 2+2 questions, the mark schemes for them are really big. So I'd rather we all share our answers and then like we mark them together. You know what I mean? Like we can do peer evaluation. So First, suggest two human factors that can increase vulnerability to extreme weather events. So, so when answering, okay, because the way you do a 2 plus 2 question, hear me out while you're writing this down. The way a 2 plus 2 question works is you have to make sure that first you're not being, that first, what you do is you state the first factor and then you explain it in a further sentence, if that makes sense. And then you do that twice. So you say your claim, and then you further elaborate in another sentence. So you do half a sentence for your factor and then another half of your sentence for explanation. Okay, I'll give you guys a bit more time for this. I'll give you guys 3 more minutes and then let me know when you're done in the chat so we can go over the mark scheme together. And it's totally understandable if you need a bit more time for the 2 plus 2 questions. Like I've prepared a few, so we're not gonna rush them. We can take our time. And I'll let you know what do they look for in a 2 plus 2 question. Just try and write what you can first, and then we'll go over the rest. I say let's wait until everyone has written theirs down, and then I'll discuss the mark scheme, and you guys can see whether or not you got it correct. Okay? Okay, awesome. I was thinking of doing it that way, but then if it doesn't work, or if that way is too slow, or if it's ineffective, or if you guys aren't understanding mark scheme from just me, we can try another method for the next question. For example, for the next question, if this method doesn't work, we can try having you guys send it in the chat, or like have you guys type it out instead of write it out, and then everyone gives each other feedback on whether they think it's, if they think it's a good scoring answer or not. You know what I mean? So that we can all understand. So we can understand how a marker thinks. Okay, so we can do that for the next one. For the next question, I'll ask you guys to type it out in the chat, and then you guys can grade each other's responses. Okay? How does that sound? Because we'll just try out different methods together to see what works. I feel like we should be very flexible for different review methods. Anyways, type in the chat if you're done. If you're not, again, it's okay. I think I should keep quiet so you guys can focus. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. We're all here to help each other. No one here is here to judge. We're gonna help each other and see how it goes together. Okay. So once HJ was and everyone else finishes typing out, we can look over everyone's responses. If you want, in the meantime, you can go over each other's answers or the ones that have been posted, and then you can just keep your thoughts between you and yourself, see if you guys wrote the same thing, if what you have to think about their answer. Just try and form an opinion on what's being written. I think by doing so. Okay, so we can first start off with okay, awesome. Everyone's typing them out. Perfect. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to type out your answers. And then we can go over them one by one. Okay. So we can begin while people are this is not physics. Sorry, this isn't physics. Good luck with your physics revision though. This is geography. Okay. That was funny. Okay, so we can begin while everyone else types out, or since you guys are almost done, I think Sylvie and HJ Was are almost done, so I can wait until you guys finish. Guys, free physics students. All they really need our support for tomorrow. Okay, let me type it out for you. You just copy paste this before and after your message. Okay, I think we should. Yes, exactly. Thanks, Blue. No, no, no. Okay, so let's go over each other's answers and see what we all, give each other feedback, right? So you guys can take your time, read each other's answers, see what you think of it. I can go through them one by one. For example, we can start with Jess. No pressure, Jess, but it's okay. So, so Jess talked about first off that conflict. So Jess said that conflict will lead to less resource availability, which leads to increased vulnerability, which is, let me see if it's correct. It is correct. Yes. I would say it's definitely correct as well. Because well, the Marx scheme would say that populations well, okay. Let me rephrase. So Jess, the first response you gave about conflict worked really well. It's correct. But the way you phrased it, I think could be much better articulated. Because, for example, with the Marx scheme, it says populations that suffer from the impacts of conflict often live in situations that are susceptible to extreme weather. So you can say it like that. You know what I mean? So areas of conflict. So people who live in areas like conflict are more susceptible to extreme weather events. So you don't have to talk about resources. You can just say they're more susceptible to them due to the extreme conflicts. And then for poverty is also correct. You can say for what you said was poverty because people still live at the minimum causing money and stuff flowing into different things. I think again, it's it's correct. You could say that due to poverty, large number of people live in locations which are more at risk. So I think what you can do is instead of you could just make it very like you can make your explanation very brief. You could say due to poverty, people live in areas that are more at risk or less managed or poorly managed against extreme weather events. So something like that, just related to the question more. You know what I mean? But what you did was really correct. And for Ahmed, you did so you guys got what I mean, right? It's more of making it more concise and just linking it to the question. So when you talk about socioeconomic inequality, you could it works as well, of course. And so I can send you guys the mark scheme and then you grade it between you and yourselves. Here you go. I'll send you a mark scheme. But if you see with the mark scheme, the way it works is that oh yes. But then for example, HJ was what you did for your second response was incorrect. Because try not to do actually no, it works. It works. Because as you can see in the mark scheme, it says don't talk about physical factors. So the good thing is that you highlighted on urban development in coastal areas, but don't just say, you know, coastal areas or living in coastal areas make you more susceptible to extreme weather events. So try not to try to steer away from physical factors. No, don't give specific examples for a 2+2 question because one, it takes too much time, and two, unless they're asking for an example, don't give an example because giving an example will isn't a part of what they're asking for. It's best to just give your point and then elaborate very briefly so that you can just keep your answers concise. Because again, you don't have time to elaborate too much in a 2+2 question. So as you can see in the mark scheme, the way it works is yes, okay. So a good thing is that human factors are those that are caused by everyday social, economic, political events. But then, of course, physical factors could be your settlement area or the weather or climate change. So when it comes to human factors, it's everything. So it's social, economic, political, it's all of them grouped together, right? So unless they specify that they need social, political, or economic, when they say human, it's all of the above, which is good because it allows you to choose between multiple options. However, if the question asks for economic or social or political, then you'd have to focus your question in a different way, if that makes sense. But the fact that they ask for human only means that you have a very broad option. So you can choose an economic factor and a political factor, or social and political. So as you can see, the Marx scheme talks about gender, it talks about housing, development, government policies. So human factor is very broad, which is good. But then don't worry if they ask you for a specific one, because we'll go through more questions. Is everyone fine with this one? With this question? Is everyone okay with moving on, or does anyone have any questions? I think my explanation can be a bit blurry sometimes, but I think with time I get I'll understand how to explain my thought process to you guys because it's very like articulating geo is very weird for me. But yes, okay, next one. Explain two physical reasons why some areas have a low population density. So again, if you want, you can type it in the chat. Type it in the chat, spoil it, have everyone read each other's answers. And if you guys want to type out your feedback to each other, say what you think about your answers, that would also be really nice to just really, give each other that peer review. And don't worry if it's not perfectly articulated, we're all trying our best. And it's pretty late, so don't worry about it. We all understand. We're all trying our best, and there's a lot of questions. So don't worry if you don't feel confident in the first one. It's just, you know, making sure you get used to it. All right. So a good amount of you have already sent your answers in. It's good. Again, make sure that as we move along with the questions, you'll be able to answer these a bit quicker, just so that you can get the hang of trying to articulate your questions. I mean, articulate your answers in a faster way. Because again, you might not have that much time in the, you might have not have enough time. That's also the okay. See, I think okay, great. I think I'll wait until HJ was finishes and then we can continue. No pressure with you, HJ was. It's like all eyes on you right now. All right. Okay, perfect. So let me just read over your answers real quick. Okay, so I like a lot of your answers. A lot of your answers really work, which is good. Let me find the march team for you guys. A good thing when talking about this is making sure that like making sure that you understand what they mean when they say physical factors, right? So let me let me try and find it. Let me find it. Where is this one? I'm telling you, I pulled these from multiple different papers, so I'm trying to find which one this was in. But yes. If you want, while I do so, you guys can look at each other's answers, see what you guys think about each other's answers. Hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, I think again, make sure that your answers aren't too long. And what you guys said about dry areas is correct, and fertile soil is correct. And what's the really the really annoying thing about a 2 marks question is you can never know how specific they want you to be exactly. So let me again, let me find them. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. Yeah, honestly it is. But no. Okay, so again, the way you did it is the way you guys are explaining it is good. You guys are being very concise, which is again really good. My one suggestion is to make sure to keep it onto physical reasons, which most of you did. Which yeah, I think it's good. I think you guys gave good answers. Let me find the marks again. I don't know why I can't find the marks scheme. It's too many things opened at once, so that's my problem. That's okay. But yes. So everything you said, guys, is correct. So if you have extreme weather climates, if you have dry areas, if you have inaccessible areas as well. If you think of places like the Gobi Desert, no one can access it. So inaccessible areas, this also works. If you think about yeah, and if you think about dry areas, yes, exactly. Geographical isolation. That one also leads to places with low population density. Harsher climates is also correct. But then again, make sure you keep it to a sentence. All right. So don't say, so everything you guys said is good. Just make sure you time yourselves, okay? So try and see if you can write this answer in a shorter amount of time than you did. But you guys are doing it really well. Everything you said works, right? And yeah, exactly. Areas far away from natural resources, areas away from water sources, all of that is correct. It's just perfect. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so explain 2 ways in which higher temperatures could increase the incidence of health hazards on people. I'll give you guys again a few minutes to answer this one. And again, try and see if you can try and see if you can time yourself, see how quick you can respond. But again, assume that during the exam you'll have the reading period. So it's okay if you take a bit longer now, but just understand that in the exam you'll be more prepared because you will have that 5-minute reading period. So Okay. Again, I'll give you guys a bit more time to respond. And to those who just joined, or to those who aren't really sending any responses, I really suggest that, if you're doing it on your own, that's completely okay. But if you also want to, post it in the chat, you're more than welcome to, just to, you know, review it with each other. But if you don't feel comfortable doing so, that's completely okay. But either way, I'll just be like prepping the mark scheme, and I hope you guys are also writing along. So that would be it. So I'll wait until HJ was again. Okay, perfect. So I have the mark scheme. So I have the mark scheme prep. So what they talk about is I'll send the mark scheme over again, and you guys can all correct each other, correct yourselves. See if you got it correct. I think I put this as a question of the day actually. But yes. So as you can see here, so yeah, as you can see here, they talk about extreme weather temperatures. So heat waves can cause increased mortality amongst vulnerable populations due to heat stroke, cardiovascular disease. You can have changes in agriculture, can impact upon food availability. You could talk about increased water temperature caused by higher temperature means that waterborne bacteria or harmful algae toxins also is more available. You have decrease in air quality, which raises the levels of ozone and other pollutants. You have higher temperatures lead to higher incidences of cyclones. You have higher temperatures, of course, leads to the melting glaciers, which gives the sea level rise, which contaminates water supplies. You have release of pathogens, and you also have dehydration from increased temperatures. So looking at your answers, you guys said you guys were correct. Like HJ was, you talked about air quality, you talked about health hazards. That's really good. You also, yeah, heat waves. Pet vector borne also works. Exactly. You guys are doing it really well. Disease carrying insects, heat related illnesses. Yes, exactly. It's good to talk about vulnerable groups. Exactly. You talk about vulnerable groups or specify. That's great. And then of course, vector-borne disease, yes. Intensity of heat waves. Okay, see, everyone's doing really well. You guys are getting it on point, and I feel like with the time that you guys took to answer it, it was really good, especially because you had to type it out. But I'm sure when you write it down, it'll be much faster. And yeah, I think okay, give yourself a pat, and let's go move on to okay. I'll do a few more Section 8 questions with you guys just so you can get the hang of it. I think I have 3 more left. So this one is explain to oh yes, papers this. I had this in my mock. It was explain to government-led strategies to reduce the causes of global climate change. I remember this was in my mock. And so yeah, this one was in my mock. This one is really popular. So it's good to know this, of course. It is good to know this one. All right, I'll give you guys time to answer. Oh my god, 10 markers on this one would be insane. I would have no idea what to say, honestly. That is insane. But can you like write down your answer, please, instead of complaining about the 10 marker? Please? Thank you. Okay. I'll do one more section A question. I'll do two more section A questions and then we'll move on to section B. Oh, you guys are getting much faster. That's really good. That's really good. That's great. Okay, I'm happy. I'm so happy for you guys. That's great. This is very nice to see. Okay, I think this is everyone. So let me unreveal. Okay, so Sylvie, you're on again, Sylvie and Jess. Both of you are on the right track, but don't in this one, it doesn't ask you with examples. This is the worst part about the 2+2. Unless they say explain with examples to government-led strategies, you don't use examples of countries. So you have to do it in general, right? So as the Marx team shows, which I'll show to you right now, instead of doing it very like being specific onto what kind of countries, you you do it really generally. So for example, you have government investment, you have government sponsored strategies, local government strategies. It's a very yeah, but the problem with 2+2 is unless they specify that they want an example, you don't give an example. That's the thing. Like for example, as you can see in the Marx scheme, it talks about planning committees, I don't know, government sponsored geoengineering strategies, local government strategies such as recycling. And so it's very, I know, but it's okay. See, at least you're making the mistakes now so that once you're in the exam, you understand that when the question says explain with examples, then you give the examples. However, if they don't specify that they want an example, don't put one. Okay? Like don't try. Because it's a much safer option to just be very, to be very concise with it because you never know, right? So the best thing to do is understand the question. When they say explain with examples, that's when you can put case study, but then if they don't say so, it's better not to do so. Does that make sense? Is that making sense? I hope it's making sense. It's good that you're making these mistakes here and not in the exam. Think about it like that. At least you're making these mistakes while you're reviewing. That's the best way. That's the best place to do the mistakes. Yes, exactly. And everyone else is doing really well. Like you talked about investments, you talked about, but again, HJ was. I don't think you should, don't say investment twice. You know what I mean? Because like you can say policies for the second one. Like for the first one, you said invest into renewable energy sources. Good. Second one, you can say instead of investing into, say, transport policies, like the one said, or legislations on. No, no, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I'm not mad at you. Please don't be sorry. It's more like so that you don't, so it doesn't seem like you're repeating the same idea twice. Just change the vocabulary. So instead of saying invest twice, you can say implement policies on transportation instead of just invest, invest, invest. You get what I mean? Like, try not to use the same verb twice. Because it would sound like you're trying to repeat the same idea twice. Does that make sense? Hope it makes sense. Okay. Overall, you guys are doing really well. You're much faster, you're much more concise, and you're matching the mark scheme. Very good. You guys should be really happy. All right. Um, Next one. Suggest two reasons why progress towards access to safe water has been slow in some regions. This one is very similar to the first question I asked. Wait. Yeah, yeah. What's good about paper two is they love talking about vulnerability. Like, I swear, if you guys understand, you know, how vulnerability happens, the causes of vulnerability, the consequences of vulnerability, that's the essence of a paper two. They love talking about people in vulnerable situations. So climate change is a vulnerable situation. Resource scarcity is a vulnerable situation. Human trafficking is a vulnerable situation. They love, I don't know why they love it, but they love it. I'm telling you. Like, I've been seeing it all over. It's just an observation I made. But yes, it's crazy. Okay, Ahmed, you were fast with that one. Good job. Good job. Yeah, they love vulnerability, honestly. Ooh. Okay, let me know when you guys are done. Or you don't have to let me know. I'm just gonna look at what you guys say anyways. Oops. Okay. So again, let me know when you're done. No rush. Okay, you guys are getting faster. That's good. That's good. Okay, we'll just wait for Jess. Awesome. Here you go. Let's look at the Mars scheme together, shall we? So, I think for this one, again, mixed performance is totally reasonable. is my screenshot not loading? Guys, okay. But the Marx team says that you can talk about, of course, high population growth, lack of hygienic wastewater disposal, open defecation, lack of investment. Yes, someone said lack of investment. Investment is always a reason. Just, again, crazy. Yeah, open defecation is really funny. I don't know why. It's such a silly one. But yes. Oh, my Wi-Fi is really bad. Is the March scheme sending for you guys? Because it's not loading for me. Can you guys see the March scheme really well? Okay, awesome. It's just my Wi-Fi, guys. But then lack of investment, political decisions, conflict, guys. Conflict always works. Conflict always works. Climate change, sea level rise in coastal areas, natural disasters, agriculture extraction, lack of funding, dams built on rivers, and remote areas. Okay, I'm glad you guys can see it because I cannot. So yes, most of you guys did. So most of you guys were correct. I think when it comes to infrastructure, a lot of you guys said infrastructure, like lack of infrastructure. You know, yeah. And as the mark scheme shows, I think you should rephrase it because here it says like political decisions can mean money is given to other areas of development, which leads to lack of investment in water supplies. So I think if you justify why there's lack of, the reason why there's lack of investment, it's because the money or political decisions are being focused elsewhere. You could say that as if that makes sense. And yes, you guys mentioned conflict. That's good. You said again, yeah, government investments. You guys love talking about investment. Oh my god. Yeah, investment works. Investment works. But yes, so try and add more of the, the terminology, right? So like climate change may lead to prolonged droughts. So if you add those specific terms, right, you can add a little bit of spice to your answer, if that makes sense. So for example, with let's see. So for example, instead of saying, let's see, let me see what thing I would. Yes. So instead of saying conflict makes things more difficult, in order to get the 2 marks, you'd have to expand. So you'd say conflict between groups may lead to A, the destruction of infrastructure, or a focus of spending on armaments. So I think what's best is if you guys expand on not just talking about, just conflict, but yes, like Achan said, disrupt infrastructure, or it's focusing plans on buying ammunition. So again, just. But you guys are doing well. You guys are expanding, which is good. Are you guys all feeling okay with 2 plus 2 mark questions now, or does anyone still feel like they're not getting it? If you don't feel like you're getting it, let me know. We can discuss it a bit more. Because it's totally understandable if you feel like you haven't understood it. So we can just like go over it one more time just to see if it's understood. Well, it's good to be, it's good to answer these in a timed matter, right? So that once you're in the exam, you understand that, oh, okay, there's a time limit, right? But I think you guys are handling it really well. No, Jess, I think you're doing really well. I really think that all it takes is just understanding how the mark scheme works. Unfortunately, with Geo, with 2 plus 2, it's understanding how an examiner might like a question. So with a 2 plus 2, unless they ask for an example, don't give an example. And if the thing says suggest, they want you to be a bit more, give a bit more reasoning to it. You know what I mean? Justify why it's happening. So for example, if you say, there's there's lack of investment, which means like if a country or there's a lack of investment in a country for rural areas, that means there's an inequality. So I think if you give that 2 sentence description, or at least one more sentence to elaborate your point, that really helps. So, and the best way to frame these questions is either this is happening because, or this is happening therefore. You guys get what I mean? So, two ways where you can frame it, which you're always seeing in the mark scheme. They either say conflict is happening, therefore people have inadequate access, or you could say or you could say lack of investment is happening because there's an inequality between rural and urban supplies. So there's two ways you can tackle your answer. What, like cause and consequence. Do you guys get what I mean? You guys get what I'm thinking? Are we on the same wavelength right now? Yes. So it's two ways that you always notice in the mark scheme. They're always saying, "Oh, this is happening, therefore this is a consequence," or "This is happening because da 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 da." You get what I mean? So like for this one, so that's the best way to frame it. Okay, so think I'm either gonna explain the consequence or explain the cause of my point. All right, so always think about that for a 2+2. Either explain why or either explain how it happened. Okay. I hope that makes sense. You guys can like write that down somewhere because I forgot to put that on my slides. And I think it's really important. So I hope you guys like write that down, keep that in your head. Because it's a great way to format your 2+2. Because they always want to ask you about, you know, just like a sequence of events or a sequence of a decision. Okay? Do you guys want to do one more 2+2 or do you want to move on to section B? Yes, it's either cause or consequence. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Sylvie. Yeah, I was thinking we should move on. I think you guys have done really well. But if someone else wants to do section A, why not? We shouldn't limit people from revising and making the most out of the resources. Get what I mean? Okay, you guys want to do one last 2+2? Sure thing. Yeah, I do have one last one, so it would be such a shame if we don't do it. Okay. Haha, this one is really annoying. That's why I was asking you guys, but oh well, we're doing it. So explain 2 ways in which different resources are developed to support Bozrup's optimistic view. Do you guys remember Bozrup? Oh my god. Guys, no, think of it, right? You have to. This question was in a past paper, so you have to imagine this might come up again, okay? They love talking about Bozrup and Malthusian. No. You guys need to be. No. Try it. Trust me, try it, okay? You have to try it. This one was funny, I'm sorry. I was asking you guys. You see, because what if in the exam you guys get asked about Bozrub, right? I love how someone left. Someone left the session. That's crazy. Someone left. Yes, Bozrep is the positive one, Malthusian is the negative one. Or it's like not the negative one, it's like, yeah, I scared someone, they left. I feel so bad. That's crazy. Okay, just try. I will give you guys the mark scheme anyways. But you guys have to at least earn it. You know what I mean? Just try, guys. It's okay. I'm loving this. I'm actually loving this. And you can't blame me. Like to be honest, what was funnier was your responses. The way you all just wanted to leave. I feel like that was chef's kiss. You guys are very comedic. Okay, I understand that this question was a very hard blow, right? But imagine this came as a past paper. Okay, so they could ask it again. There's no reason why they can't. They love those refs. They love Malfusion. So I'm keeping you guys in the loop. You guys have to be thankful. Kidding, kidding, kidding. I'm not gonna act like that. But anyways, let me show you guys the mark scheme. Why you're plotting against my downfall and regretting joining this revision session. It's okay. Because yes, exactly. You might see Bozrep in your exam because they love talking about Bozrep. They love talking about Malthusian. They love talking about circular economy. So it's just prepping you guys for that possibility. But yes, let me find the mark scheme for this one. This one was a fun one, wasn't it? I'm glad you guys liked it because I did. I sure did. Okay, let me get the mark scheme. Mark scheme. So don't worry, I wasn't too sure about this question myself either. I can't be laughing too much. I didn't really know what to say after when I first saw it. I just thought we could do it together. We could suffer together. So, the Mars scheme. Yes, exactly. For those of you who said circular economy is correct. By the way, Bozrep is a girl, guys. Let's not let's give our girls some credit. Okay, so everything is correct. Like circular economy, correct. Desalinization, correct. Vertical farming, correct. Multi-cropping, correct. Land reclamation, yes, she was Danish. Land reclamation, correct. Circular economy, yes, correct. So, you guys, to summarize or to refresh you guys on what Bozrep meant. Wait, do we all know what Bozrep? Does everyone understand what Bozrep, what her point of view is? Does everyone know this? If not, I can refresh it. So, what Bozrep is saying is that because the human population is growing at such a fast rate, human innovation will then allow for human resources or allow exactly like with human development, you will have more innovation to then meet and satisfy the demand on resources. So if you think of urban areas with vertical farming, that will also take care of, urbanization and mass housing as well as growing resources. And then if you talk about multi-cropping, that also works. Substitution for renewable energy, that also works. Think very positively, think very optimistically, right? And that is how it works. I know this was a silly one, but you guys never know, okay? You guys never know. All right. That was a lot of section A. I know it took a lot of time, but it's good that you guys understand how section A works, right? You understand that it's supposed to be really fast. It's supposed to be really efficient. You guys have to understand the question. No, investing is wrong because it's like you put your money in, then what? I think what the Bozrep mindset is more on the innovations itself and not investing in the innovations. Like Bozrep's optimism comes from human technological advances that matches with the demand. So don't talk about money, because money, like, it wasn't about the money. It was about, human innovation. Okay. So that's the thing with Bozrep. It was never about the money. in the like Bojo never talked about money. It always talked about innovation. You get what I mean? You get, yeah. So yes, section A, remember, during your 5-minute reading time, jump to section A. Make sure you understand what is being written. Oh yeah, so I think Malthusian would talk about more about population control. You get what I mean? Like being more strict on regulations that can then impact how much is being grown and who can get what, and being limiting on, you know, maybe putting quotas on what people could get, what resources. I don't know about Malthusian, but Malthusian's is more strict if you think of it, because he says that human population won't satisfy population growth. Yeah. Family planning. Yeah. So let's continue, shall we? Are we ready for section B, guys? Yeah, probably, Jess. Yeah. Probably. Okay, so let's move on to section B, shall we? Section B. So we know section B. Section B, but the way section B works is you get an infographic and then you have to respond to 3 questions about it. 2 questions are directly from the infographic, like it's a direct, like you deduct or you pull up or you pull out a statistic or a number and then you answer with it. And then the second one is a bit larger than that. And then you have the 6-mark question. 6-mark question. Who does anyone here take history? Because if you take history, it's very similar to a source analysis. If you don't take history, I take history, so I'll tell you what a source analysis is. But the issue with the 6-mark question is with the 6-mark question, you have to first read the question. If you don't read the question, you can't be able to evaluate it the way that it asks you for. For example, if an infographic is talking about like health policies to improve like, I don't know, health policies to improve children's healthcare, and the question is like, evaluate how this infographic illustrates la 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 la. So you have to weigh in the pros and cons. Okay. Wait, 3+3 where? In section A. Wait, 3+3 question in section A. Ooh. Okay. While we're doing section B, I'll try and find a 3+3 question and let you know, because I haven't found 3+3 question actually, which was weird. But yes, anyways. Let's continue, right? Let me show you. I have one section B for you guys to try and practice. Yeah, I see 3+3 in the option papers, not the. I see 3+3 in paper 1, not in paper 2. I don't know, because in the sources I checked out, I never saw 3+3. But yes, okay. So I'm gonna give you guys an infographic, and then there are the 3 questions. Try and answer the first 2. And then for section C, also try and answer it as well. But if you want, don't answer it in the full paragraph. Just give the points, okay? So the way a 6-point question works is you have to evaluate the infographic based off of the question. So to get the 6 marks, you need to have 3 marks that supports it, 3 marks against it, and then a concluding sentence. Okay? So I'll explain it further with the infographic that I'm showing you guys. All right, so let me just show you guys the infographic itself. It's pretty nice. It's a nice one. So let me know if you guys can see it properly. It's an infographic about it's about waste management. And so you have the first questions here on the right and then the bottom question over here. If you want to save time, you don't have to write the full paragraph for part C. You can just write down the points that you'd want to say, okay? So I'll give you guys. It's a really nice infographic, actually. It's really nice. I'll give you guys how long would you need? Would you need like 5 minutes, 7 minutes? How about 7 minutes? No, I'll give you guys 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll go over the Mars key together. Cool? And you guys can type out the results if you want. You can type out the result, like you could type it out in the chat. Make sure to spoil it. And so, yes. And let me prepare the Mars key for you guys as well, of course. 1 sec. All right, so I'll give you guys 5 minutes. So at 32, I'll get back to this. Oh, yeah, okay, about that question, I just found it in a past paper, and it's a 2 plus 2 in the past paper. Look, let me show you. I found the exact question. It's a 2 plus 2 one. It's not a 3 plus 3. Let me show you. Oh, yeah, here, let me send you guys a picture of the infographic in the chat. Sure thing, no worries. Thing is that the page itself, it took up 2 pages. It's a pretty big infographic. Here you go. I'll send it. Okay, here you go. The infographic is in the chat as well. All right. I'll give you. Do you guys need a bit more time, maybe, for this one? Okay, I see one person wrote their answer, which is good. No, it's okay. We can do the 6-point question together, like I said. Okay, so whoever just joined or whoever wasn't here the whole session, hi. We're doing like a like a understanding paper two questions, and now we're at section B. So I asked them to answer the first three questions, and then we would do section C, section question C together. All right. So, okay, I'll give you guys a few more minutes because I get that this needs some time. Should be a bit more gentle with timing. Ah, hmm. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, that's okay. Again, you can do that as well. I'll just wait until everyone else sends in their answer. I think I'm just waiting for Sylvie and HN. And Alma, if you want to write it down as well, you're more than welcome to. All right, no worries. See you. Thanks for tuning in for as long as you did. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'll just wait for HN. I think HN, I assume you're almost done. If you want me to move on, just let me know. Okay. So let me show you guys the answers. So for number one, it's from 0.4 to 28.5 or 28.1. Both of those were correct. Iron is correct. And then for question B, it's either negative correlation or exactly like what you guys said is correct. Negative correlation, or it's yes. Inverse relationship, negative correlation. Those both are correct in that sense. Awesome. So you guys got the first three questions correct. All of you. Great job. But again, yes, great job. It works really well. Okay, so for part C, did you guys understand part C, first of all? You guys get what they're asking for? Let's get that out of the way first. Because it was this question is actually relatively nice. This is actually a really nice infographic. because it talks about whether or not this is a global problem. So that's where you can specify your analysis, right? And so what you can do is that you can divide 3 by 3. So 3 points for, 3 points against. So that's how I do it. That's how it's balanced out, right? You give a balanced evaluation. And so 3 marks for, you could say that, oh, all continents here are involved in the recycling of e-waste. That makes it a global problem. 2, um, there's also reference to the rates of growth of e-waste, which makes it a growing problem as well. And then you also have the reference to the pollution e-waste produces. So those 3 are examples of how this infographic supports the evidence. But then how it doesn't support the evidence, you could talk about how HICs are the ones that are the most problematic. You could talk about how they talk about e-waste actually is profitable, it gives you money, rather than it being a bad thing. It's actually a profitable industry. And it also talks about the high employment given by recycling e-waste. So it doesn't really support the claim that it's a positive or it's a negative problem. So let me show you guys the mark scheme. So the way it works is that you give 3 points for or 3 points that support the question, like how it supports it. You put 3 points against, and then make sure to always have a concluding sentence in the end, right? That's where 1 point goes away. So 1 point is always safe for a conclusion. So for example, for this one, they said, thus, although e-waste is an issue, it can also have some benefits. So having that evaluative and balanced conclusion, it really needs to be there so that you can really, so that it can cover up your whole question, right? It sums it up as a whole. Make sure to remember that a conclusion is very important in a letter C question. Yes, it is very important. I hope this makes sense. So, all right. So let me just add the slides because I'm gonna share this for everyone else. So yeah, as I said, make sure you style it in a way where you include 3 supporting points, 3 disagreeing points, and 1 conclusion. No, I get what you mean. So always look at what the question asks for, right? Because it always allows you to direct what you're going to evaluate. Like, for example, for this question, it asks you how, so to what extent does the evidence show that e-waste is a problem? So to what extent is this a negative infographic, right? Think of it that way. Because, infographics are always trying to give off a message or trying to give off some sort of information. So this question is asking, is this a negative or an overall negatively worded infographic, right? You can say it is because it's showing how you can say how yes it is because it's showing how all the continents are being affected. It's showing the mass impact it's having, the pollution it's causing. However, it's also showing the profit one makes. It also shows the employability it has. It shows the minerals that one can extract. So you can allow the question to be your blueprint, right? and try and see how you can find things that agree with the question and things that disagree with the question. Do you get what I mean? So the question is always your blueprint because the infographic is there. The information is there. You just have to see what the question asks for to see what what you're going to do with the information, all right? Awesome. I hope that makes sense. Yes. So try not to be worried about analysis. Just think of the question and do it's like a pros and cons list, right? Very simple. Just talk about 3 points for, 3 points against. Give a balanced you have to give a balanced and like a balanced evaluation and always make sure you conclude. That's the blueprint, right? That's the thing you always have to remember. Make sure to conclude in the end of the paragraph. Okay. So, is everyone okay with section B? That's a question. Yes. Exactly. Point, evidence, conclude. You guys want one more section B? Ah, I can't find one more actually. Because the other ones were blocked because of copyright. But don't worry, I'll give you one later, like at another point of the week. Between now and next week, I'll do like a question of the day. I'll give you guys an infographic. I'll spice things up. Okay, so let's move on to the final section, which is of course section C, our favorite, isn't it? It's the essay. So section C is when you have to pay most attention to, right? Section C is where C is where all of your like the rest of your time has to go to. You have worked to the point of the essay. So again, make sure that the time you've spent for the rest of the questions is not too much and that it's enough and the time you have left is enough to support your essay in section C. Okay? So I know it's very pressuring, but it's good to have that flow. The one same way that you guys had it earlier, where you guys got the hang of the speed, okay? And during the 5-minute reading question, choose your essay. Because in section C, you get two options, and you choose which essay you want to choose. So have it in your mind which essay you want to write about in that 5 marker, right? So what you do, jump to the essay, read the essays, say, okay, I want to do question 5. And then you jump back to you know, to the section A, and then you start seeing how you're going to answer, right? So just have that plan ready. That, okay, I'm going to save at least 20 minutes, 25 minutes for my essay, okay? And that will leave you around, it'll give you a lot of time. It'll give you like 50 minutes for the rest of things. But I suggest giving yourself at least like half an hour, 30 minutes, 30 minutes for the essays so that you can plan it, so that you can work out your ideas, so that you can calmly structure it out. Because I feel like you should really give it, a lot of attention because it's a 10 marker, right? So let's use an example. Okay, so you have two of these questions. One is, of all the demographic challenges nations face, aging is the most serious. To what extent do you agree? 6, responding to climate change is more important than working towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. To what extent do you agree? So, off the top of the bat, which one do you think you guys are gonna do? Which one do you think you're gonna be most comfortable with if this was in exam conditions? Like me personally, I would do question 1, but then other people could do other ones. Okay, so if you guys want, we can just do this thing where you like try and think of what case studies you're going to use for your questions, right? Like for example, I'll be doing fair. But that's good, right? If you don't remember it off the top of the bat, it's okay. If you know question 1 more, just do question 1. Like for example, I'll do question 1 and then I talk about aging society is my first paragraph. I talk about like, Japan's aging society. Exactly. Everyone, Japan. Japan is the best case study for aging populations. So you could do You could talk about Japan for aging population. Um, you could talk about, the negatives of it and how it's being tackled. And then you can talk about other things you think which are worse, right? You have exactly. And I think what's good is that you don't only have to talk about aging, right? Because you can talk about aging as one of the challenges, but you can also say it's not the most serious. You could say another very serious demographic challenge would be, rapid population growth, or you know what I mean? For example, for demographic challenges, you could talk about. Oh, that's good. You could talk about natural increase. I think I'd talk about like mass migration or mass rural urban migration. I think that's also a big challenge that most cities face because it's a challenge for both, the urban area and the rural side. I would talk about China for that case, for rural urban migration. I talk about that one as a second paragraph, honestly. I think that one's also a serious issue. I honestly think you should always have at least one case study per paragraph because yeah, because it helps put your theories into practice, you know what I mean? So like for example, if you're talking about the aging society, you talk about the negatives of it, of a decline in birth rates. I do three paragraphs. I do three body paragraphs because simply because I don't think there's much time, and you want to have three good paragraphs, right? So I would say follow the peel structure. Peel structure, point, evidence, explanation, and then link. I would do that for three paragraphs. And the thing is that with these to what extent questions, it's always evaluating whether something is more important or whether a statement is correct. So I would do, like, my thesis would be, oh, either I agree or I disagree or I agree to an extent. And then I give three paragraphs, one of aging populations, one of a different problem, one of a different problem. Well, that's a good thing about essays, right? It's good that it's general because it allows you to really take it as you will. For example, for the climate change one, you could argue that they work interchangeably, right? And so then your analysis could talk about how climate change and UN SDGs they come together. It could work, right? You could talk about, problem, I think is it SDG number 2, which is global hunger, which is a consequence of climate change. So working on them together can help combat each other. Um, I think for this one, you could talk about, let's see. Oh, yes. Do you know the earthquake in Haiti? The one where people came and where I think it was the World Food Program, they brought in farmers to then help them rebuild their situation after the earthquake. I think that's a good example because it's responding to a climate induced disaster, but then at the same time, it's also working towards the UN SDGs. You never have. Oh, well, that is one. It was a, I think it was a natural disaster in both Haiti and Cuba, and so then a global response was sending in farmers to help rebuild or to help the farmers sustain themselves in such a disaster. And so it talks about resource security, which is one of the UN SDGs, but it also talks about addressing a climate change issue. Does that make sense? Yeah, that one's something you could do. Yes. And then you could also talk about vulnerable, because you know how in global climate change you talk about vulnerable communities? You could also talk about that one. You say like, you know how vulnerable communities, or there are areas in the world that are more vulnerable to climate change or climate induced disasters, like you talked about Kiribati. You could talk about how responding to them also leads to, so for example, you know how let me try articulating it. So Kiribati could also be a good, yeah, Kiribati could also be a good case study, because how it works is you can talk about how they've built infrastructure to help combat the waves, but then while responding to climate change, they're also improving their own infrastructure. So you can talk about how they work hand in hand. That's what I would do personally. Does that make sense, Sylvie? Like, you can really argue how mitigating or adapting to climate change really helps with UN SDGs, because by, improving the infrastructure, by fixing, adequate policies, you are contributing to the UN SDGs, because you're aiming for the development of vulnerable populations. If they're responded to, you know what I mean? So I think it would be good to, if you really like climate questions, look back at your case studies for them. Make sure that you have enough, especially when it comes to like vulnerable, like areas vulnerable to climate-based disasters. I think it's really important. And you could also talk about areas in conflict. Like if you talk about Yemen, Yemen has been prone to a lot of climate-induced disasters like heat stroke and droughts. So, oh, this one was 2019. This was May 2019. But yeah, okay, let me show you the next one. Or does anyone have any more questions about this one? Yes. Like, I would argue that they're interchangeable. Like, you can't respond to a climate change crisis without working towards the sustainable development goals, because that's what the goals are for. You know what I mean? That's what I would argue. I would say I don't agree with the statement really, because when responding to climate change, you are inherently living up to what the goals are for, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Hope it does. It could come back. Yes, we are getting a. Okay. And then, of course, for the first one, I would probably, yes, I talk about aging population, I talk about migration. I might also talk about maybe dependency ratios. The fluctuating dependency ratios, that's also a demographic challenge, because, some places might have. Yeah, exactly. All right. I also have another set of questions you can look at. So the greatest. Yes. Yes, Ahmed. You could. Demographic dividend is good, yes. And for Ahmed, yes, you could agree with it 100%. Your thesis statement could be, oh yes, aging population is the most important issue. And then you explain why it's the most important issue, and then you could also talk about other issues, and you can argue why they're not as important. You know what I mean? You could say, oh, these are very important, but they're not as important because they're already being solved, or there's adequate solutions to it, or so on and so forth. Okay, so look at these questions. This was actually a past paper for me. I did the first question. Let me see if I have my past paper. Where is it? Let me try that. I did this. I did question one. Let me see how much I got for it. Ooh, I have a lot of past papers in my. Yep. Okay, I found my paper too. Okay, wait. Let me see what I said. Why do I have two paper twos? Oh no, resource booklet. Okay. Paper two, paper two. Okay, I can show you guys what I got for this one. Oh, I remember this. Yes, 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 yes. I remember this. Yeah. I was really pissed. I was really pissed at the teacher who graded this for me because he graded the rest of my paper wrong. I swear. He was very wrong. But anyways, that's gonna happen in an exam. Okay, wait, let me look at my paper too. Uh okay, so oh my god, I remember this. Okay. Okay, my past paper was okay. I did fine. Okay, let me look at my essay. Yes, this is the last slide, don't worry. This is the last slide. So, yes, what I did was okay, the teacher who marked this gave me a 7 out of 10. Understandable. So I talked about oh, okay. Oh no, I got a different question. I got the consequences of megacity growth are mainly felt by individuals. I got a different question. But yes, I also talked about megacities. But I think it's the same thing, really. For the first one, it's pretty much the same thing. It's about demographic challenges again. So you could talk about megacities is the most important, aging population is the most important, da 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 da. Da. So, or you could talk about, you can expand on megacities, talk about why you agree, why it's really challenging. You could really take it into multiple ways. So, yeah. But you guys understand how you could tackle these questions, right? They're always going to be it's always going to be one or the other. And sometimes it's mostly about, they'll take, I don't know, they'll usually have two and one from each unit. They're going to be two from two different units. So, all right. So it's pretty similar, but it's just showing you what kind of questions will come on. All right. If anyone has any other questions, let me know. If not, I think we can wrap up the session. I hope everyone found this beneficial because, and I hope you understood the paper more and what it means. Of course, I'm glad you loved the balcony session. I really hope you guys do well with the paper too after this. Not saying that my presentation would help, but who knows? Who knows? No, I promise I could not find any 3+3s. I've looked across multiple years, no 3+3s. Unless it comes this year and I get proven wrong. But yeah. Okay, I really hope we all get sevens. But thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Blue, for filming. I hope it works well. And whoever is taking HL, we should definitely talk about HL soon. We should definitely tackle HL content soon. But until then, good luck with your revisions. Have a great day.